Welcome to the podcast. My name is Eric Ortina. I'm your host. I have been a competitive long-range shooter for over a decade now, but I'm still in learning mode. That's the reason that I started this podcast, because I want to talk to people that I can pick their brains and learn something from. Now, why did I call it Believe the Target? Well, the target is really the only one that tells the truth. There's many ideas, many theories, many experts. However, the target ultimately decides who's right. Anyway, if you're not subscribed to this podcast, make sure you subscribe right now. Go give it a like, and let's get started. Hey, Chase, welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me here, Eric.
We're going to talk Rimfires now.
Good. Lots to talk about on that subject.
Dude, as you know, I got me a Rimfire, custom built by DI Precision,
Yes,
the
sir.
works, and I have yet to shoot it once. I'm just... I know it's a crime, but that's how it is, right?
It is what it is.
I also built a Voodoo, just pretty much a stock Voodoo, but I put a real nice stock on it and
Sure.
Everything. Have yet to shoot it, so
Okay.
I need to jump on the 22 game. I got the air rifle now, so everything's stacking up.
Seeing those videos, I want to go down that rabbit hole next.
Yeah, everything just stacks up. But the whole point is, Rimfires, you do a lot of it. When
Yes,
you
sir.
were over at DI Precision, you were the Rimfire guy. Like,
Yeah.
you would tune all the rifles.
Yes. So every rifle that we built over there, I was guaranteeing precision, and then I would true out kestrels also if they bought that package. So it's hard to put a number on it because I did so much testing on my own, but there for about a year period, I would conservatively say I shot 30 to 40,000 rounds of 22 between
Wow.
the shop, and then I was doing my own testing on the side, and then with another client. I remember in 1 month we shot 8,000 rounds because we kept count.
Wow.
My buddy Andy.
Well, it's so easy when you don't have to reload that stuff.
Correct. But because of that same aspect is why it gets so difficult. And there's so many rabbit holes to go down. And, obviously I listened to your podcast with Bartline and, talking about bore diameters and projectile diameters and whatnot. And there's just so many variables that you kind of have to try to mitigate. And that's why I love going down that road is, it's kind of a never ending process, I guess. And there's never that aha moment. I mean, we can do so much to, cover so many variables, but there's still always the subject of someone else is loading the ammo at the end of the day, which you and I both know how important part of that variable is, controlling ammunition and whatnot. So.
Hang on. There it is. I got these shortcuts made, and I forgot which ones they are.
Making reels.
No, it just, it goes to you, goes to me.
Gotcha.
That,
Yep.
Camera cuts. All right.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, ammunition. I mean, I know how important it is in long range, in what I do.
Yes,
but,
sir.
The thing about rimfire, how do you control? I mean, that's always been the issue with rimfire, right? You cannot change the ammunition. So what are the other things that you have to do?
Quality components, obviously. We have seen some Voodoos that would come in that shot just as good, but it was not that often that we would have one. And normally someone would just send a barrel in, or a barrel to action, or with their whole gun. Like, hey, test it, see what it's capable of. And if it doesn't meet y'all's accuracy requirements, then just rebarrel it and throw one of y'all's on in a easy tuner. 95% of the time, that's what we would recommend. Every now and then, we would get a factory barrel that, probably just needs a tuner. And then we just throw a tuner on it, send it back to them, and it would shoot within reason. Good enough to win any PRS match, for sure. Some of them, I'd say one barrel, I remember that thing, it would probably win an ELR match, 22 ELR. It was that good. But it was a unicorn, in my opinion. And, we bore scoped a lot of them just to see, hey, is there chatter marks in here? Why are these things just not shooting as good as what we're And I think a lot of it has to do with attention to detail on the gunsmithing side as much as anything. Shout out to Blake and Dustin over there. Those guys have figured out how to spin a barrel up on 22s. They've done a lot.
When you say over there, you mean at DI?
Yep.
DI Precision?
So, after that, ammunition choices. I assure you, I've shot just about every, match 22 round there is. And I always have gravitated back to Lapua's line. Now, I have shot some Ely, and as much, I would say probably in the reamer design, it's intended to shoot. Ely has a totally different projectile than Lapua's line does. And your ogive shape, how much are you jamming it on your when you're closing your bolt? I think a lot of that has to come, you have to come up with a game plan, essentially build your reamers around, hey, here's this fixed projectile cartridge, I should say, with this projectile on the end of it. And you got to kind of figure out how to design something for that. And, the reamer that they've been using has been around for a minute, and it works very good with Lapua's line of ammunition. And I have shot, groups that, if there weren't witnesses, wouldn't be believed, like sub-half 5-shot groups at 200 yards. Half-inch, not MOA.
Oh.
Sub-half-inch groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done it not once, but quite a few times. So we had a single-shot test rifle there that was comically accurate. I mean, it was so accurate, if you could predict the wind within a half mile an hour on light, breezy mornings, you could say, oh, the wind just picked up 1 mile an hour. This bullet's going to hit exactly half a bullet left and half a bullet high, and it would go right there. You could predict the shot all day long. So that was when we started shooting the American Rimfire Association, the 25-shot cards.
Mm-hmm.
And I never shot one indoors, which a lot of the records are shot indoors. I think my highest score was like a 2,400 something. I almost shot a perfect score. It's basically 1 or 2 shots dropped off of an X. And that was shot outside with wind, mitigating light and whatnot. And we had kind of a railgun system set up where you're essentially, it was a sub 1 ounce trigger, has to be on a system like that because your dwell time's longer, and any pressure, man, that was another thing, is figuring out how sensitive 22s are to, different pressure applications and whatnot, and how they'll throw shots. That all that stuff had to be shot with different rear bags, different bipods, what's absorbing, frequency while the bullet's in the barrel and whatnot. Like, we tested everything we could. And now I've got my rifle set up to where it'll just shoot a hole out of the paper at 50 yards, and it'll, I sent you that group the other day with that new Lapua super long range. 10 shots was under half an inch at 100 yards. I mean, that's the kind of ammunition that Lapua is putting out now. Shout out to Creedmoor Sports for sending that stuff to me to test. And man, it is just incredible. Like, we shot a group the other day at 300 yards. Me and my wife did. And it was more of a tuner deal than anything. So I had my gun tuned to the same position where I'd sent you that picture of that group. I shoot exactly a 3-inch tall group at 300 yards for 10 shots.
Mm-hmm.
I moved the tuner a quarter of a turn, and only 6 of the 10 shots even hit the plate, and the rest of them strung vertically through the 12-inch plate at 300 yards.
Wow.
Put it back to where it was. My wife shoots a group that's 0.4 mils, so just over a minute tall. And then I detune it again, and she goes 5 for 10 on the same plate. So, we were measuring with that new Speed Tracker Mach 4 chronograph. Both of them had a SD in the 6s. So it's not like our velocity changed, but our vertical sure changed dramatically out there. So, and I've got that on video too.
So what is a barrel tuner? A barrel tuner is a device that attaches to the end of the barrel that allows you to tune the barrel harmonics in order to shrink your groups as best as possible. There are multiple types. Here at Cortina Precision, we have what we call the next generation Easy Tuner brake. This is a tuner and a muzzle brake combined. Now, if you're simply looking for a barrel tuner for your, let's say, rimfire rifle or even an air rifle, then the Easy Tuner V2 is probably going to be the best option for you. This tuner uses a spring to eliminate backlash and provide the most repeatable results. In order for you to attach it to your rifle, you can either have the barrel threaded by a gunsmith to attach the tuner directly, but that requires an inch 250 barrel, or you can use one of our adapters. These adapters come threaded in multiple different threads, half 20, half 28, 3/4 24. So you can attach this tuner to just about any barrel out there, including your rimfire or your air rifle. Visit shootsmallgroups.com, go to our store, and take a look around. Also, you can go on YouTube and search for Easy Tuner, and you'll see a lot of videos out there that show what our tuners can do for you. So ammunition, you talk about there's many.
Yep.
So somebody that gets this, like for example, like me, I got this brand new custom built 22 that I've never shot. Mm-hmm. And it's a DI precision rifle build.
Yes, sir.
Right? So you're familiar with those. What should I try? If you said, if I only had one ammo to shoot, well, give me the top one and maybe just give me the top three that I should pick.
As is most questions, it's loaded for long range precision. There's no, this is what you do right here.
Right.
There's always variables. So the first thing I'd recommend is send your gun in to have it lot tested at Lapua, because depending on what brand of barrel you get, like Muller Works, for example, their barrels are slugged, and you have to essentially cut your barrel length on the chamber end, not on your crown end, because they need that slug to be an exact diameter to get your precision. And, you want to control your barrel length on the chamber side. So if I want to say a 25-inch barrel, we're going to cut it on the chamber end and not mess with the crown end.
No, okay.
Okay, but on a Krieger, for example, it doesn't matter. It might, I'm sorry, Krieger, if it does, but Muller specifically says, this is how you need to cut our barrels. So that's how we would do it. But I would send your barrel to Lapua Test Center and have them shoot, a little bit of everything. They're going to shoot some Lapua. They're going to shoot some SK, right? Both owned by Capstone. And they're going to send you test results, as you know this. Hey, these shot the best numbers. It might be the same with precision. And you can go through and say, oh, I like the look of this lot with these numbers, and purchase however many thousands of rounds you want. So that's the first thing I would say to do. We've tested, I don't know how many different types of match, like everything we could find. We were just, there's a match grade 22. Let's buy that and see how it turns out. And we'd shoot it. It just didn't shoot good, no matter what we do with the tuner. And then we started buying more refined instrumentation to measure what are these variables we're seeing on the ammunition side. So now rim thickness on your casing, and then run out. Okay, well now let's measure, however many boxes it takes, I want to find 50 that have the same rim thickness and then under 1,000ths of run out.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It took, some of them are like, okay, we had to cull everything because this brand of match ammo didn't even muster up. We bought, say, 500 rounds. We'd, have someone measure through it, and we couldn't get 14 rounds total to okay, well, we're pushing a chain uphill trying to mess with this brand, so we would just don't recommend it. But and I don't know how Lapua does. I've talked to Emil Praslik about Lapua's ammunition. I know the projectiles are the same, but I don't know what determines the quality control between, say, Center X, Midas Plus. Then there's there's long range, there's super long range, and then Biathlon X. Is that what the really unbelievably expensive stuff?
I don't know, man. I don't know anything about rimfires.
Okay, so they essentially, and I'm from what I remember, my conversation with Emil, they have the same projectile, and they all shoot pretty similar velocities. except for the new long range and super long range, they have a new powder. You know, you're shooting right under supersonic. So I think my, if I recall, my 22 shoots those around 1130-ish feet a second, 1120 to 1130. And then Midas Plus would shoot about 1110 feet a second in my barrel. You know, and that's all very barrel length dependent. And, you know, there was so many growing pains in figuring out the best combination of twist rate and barrel length. And we kept coming back to the same numbers, which I'm not going to put those out because it's, you know, kind of, you know, it's not super hush hush, but at the same time, I know they don't want me to go spilling the beans on that either. So, we came out with kind of where we could get very similar results downrange on target. We came up with a barrel length and a twist rate that worked very consistently with Lapua's ammunition, whether it was Midas or SK long range or whatever. It would tend to shoot all that stuff really, really well out there distance. And, you know, we had a guy that came in out of town one time. He actually came in to do an extreme long range class with me. And he ended up purchasing a 22. Like, yeah, I want one. And they spun it up in, you know, like 4 hours. And we went out and tested it on our 500-yard range and had this stuff on video also. At 500 yards, he went 20 for 20 on I think that plate was probably 15 inches wide and probably 25 inches tall. As fast as he could shoot. Just bam, 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 bam. And just slapped it every single shot. 2 mags in a row. And I was just like, I've never seen a gun shoot like this before. I mean, his gun was shooting an inch at 300 yards. And I'll show you pictures of all this stuff. I just couldn't believe how good his rifle shot. Wow. And it was just, for whatever reason, the lot that we happened to have on the shelf, it absolutely loved it. Had unbelievably tight numbers. But we also had to do, I don't know if you're really breaking in a 22 barrel, but just like a centerfire, those first couple hundred rounds are, you know, I don't trust them. After all the testing that we did, same thing. It was like you needed about 150 to 200 before you could actually, all right, now let's actually see what this barrel can do.
So, yeah, like I said, I have zero experience with the 22 other than clinking back when I was younger, right? But like competitive experience, I have none. And I want to try one. I mean, I have two. But, so, I don't know that you answered my question. Just give me 3 ammo that you say. Go get these 3.
And again, this is my barrel, right?
Right.
Super long range, Lapua super long range, Midas Plus, and then, believe it or not, just Center X.
So this is for like extreme long range stuff, or just like if I want to do PRS, does it change?
No, because you're still subsonic. It depends on your barrel length. It's a matter of, does your barrel like it? My barrel likes those 3 in that order. And, you know, again, we had our reamer set up for that brand of projectile. So it was advantageous for me just to stay in that, you know, kind of the capstone umbrella. I have shot other brands through it. They didn't shoot very good. You know, just, you know, you've heard of Remington Thunderbolts, right? That just the old bucket of 22 bullets, you know. Yeah. I tested some of that over my Ailer 89, just, you know, for kind of grins. And it was like 50% were supersonic and 50% were subsonic. It was because right there on that cusp of, you know, and it was just, it depended, but it was zero precision to be had whatsoever. And this is, I wouldn't say, you know, the best built 22 on the planet, but they will hold their own. You know, they did set a lot of world records building guns out of their shop. Yeah. There's a guy up in, don't get me wrong, but I think he's up in either Pennsylvania or Ohio, and he's purchased a lot of rifles. And he has set quite a few records.
Wow.
In 22 bench rest.
So 22s, right? What's you do extreme long range? Is that what you do with them? Do you compete, or you just for fun?
So no, you know, no, I compete.
In Rimfire?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if I'm not mistaken, the current Rimfire world record is at 500 or maybe 510 yards. I'd have to go to the website and check, but it's cold bore 3-for-3 on a 12-inch plate. Does that make sense? So
12 by 12.
A 12-inch by 12-inch plate. You have to hit it your first 3 shots. You cannot have any foulers.
Okay.
Or siders for the day. Those are your first 3 shots fired for the day.
For the day, all day? So you only get you only get 3 shots all day, or is there a period where you can rest?
I think you can do 2 attempts in a day, and there has to be a certain amount of time in between your 2 attempts.
Okay. Where do we find this info?
That is a good question because they have changed hands. If I'm not mistaken, Brian Wink at Safety First ELR has they keep all the records now. So It used to be ELR Central, and then it's migrated away from there. And I'm pretty sure Brian Wink at Safety First Tactical has that. And,
all right. Let me ask questions about that, because that doesn't sound. Of course, I'm going to preface this by saying I've never done this, but shooting, it doesn't sound that hard. But I know, right? That's the funny part.
Yeah,
because it doesn't sound that hard. However, I've never done this. All right, and that's the trap, I think.
Yes.
Having said that, does it have to be done in competition, or can I just go out here in the field and?
It needs to be done in a sanctioned competition.
Okay, well that's fair.
Yes.
Okay.
So in my opinion, that's the way it should be, because everyone's shooting under the same conditions. You don't get to go and cherry pick your day. Like, oh, it's dead calm. Let's go out.
Well, there's still not everybody shooting in the same conditions, because not everybody shoots at the exact same time.
True,
but at least
that's the problem with ELR is when do you draw?
Right. But
So.
Okay, that's fair. That it can be done. That it has to be done in a competition.
Yes, sir.
So are you telling me that if I go out here and shoot it at 550 yards and it takes me 737 shots, that I can't claim a world record?
Or in 69 shots.
Anyway.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Do they have I'm sure they have a because I know in ELR they actually do have a record, right? Like an actual, and I think they just broke it.
Chris Schmidt just broke the record.
Right. 4,200 and something. Crazy.
2,800 something.
2,800?
Either 27 or 2,800, because it was held by Rusty Newton at like 25. And then after Rusty, who broke it up? I think maybe Derek Love might have broke it in Kansas at one of the matches up there. And then Chris Schmidt just came in, and I think it was 27 or 2,800. And that's cold bore 3-for-3, no warm-ups.
That's awesome.
That's
legit.
Phenomenal shooting.
Yeah, that's
over legit. A mile and a half away, and on a 36-inch plate. That's the standard for center bore or center fire ELR.
So the plate stays the same regardless of the distance?
Correct. It has to be done on a 36-inch plate. They just move the distance back.
Oh, wow.
And that thing just keeps shrinking.
All right, that's impressive. Yes. I'm going to say that is very impressive, especially in a competition.
Yep. Sanctioned.
3-for-3. Yep. Cold bore.
Yes, sir.
The works. 2,800. Yeah, I saw that. It's impressive. I got to have that guy on here.
Yeah, Chris, I'm great friends with Chris. I can have him on here with you.
Oh, that would be awesome. So that way we can talk about,
And he's a structured barrel shooter also, like me.
Okay.
Yep, he set the record with a structured barrel.
Okay, let's talk about those right quick, because people ask me that all the time. They say, well, what about the structured barrels?
And I've got one down in the truck.
And I
need to show it.
And I know people in F-class that have tried them. Mm-hmm. And they gave up on them because they shoot just about everything. Mm-hmm. But whatever they shoot, they shoot. So if they shoot 5/8 MOA, that's all you're going to get. You can't tune it anymore. At least they couldn't, right?
Maybe they couldn't.
Exactly, and this is what I'm asking. This is why I'm asking you, because those barrels are very expensive. So
I just ordered 2 more.
when they couldn't get the results that they were looking for, they just ditched them right away. And because they go, well, the whole point is you can't tune them. They have no harmonics, so how do you tune it? And
they have some. They're majority harmonically dead, I would say. And I can't quantify it because I don't have instrumentation to measure it. But when you shoot them, you can definitely feel a difference when you shoot them. They don't have residual ding. The way I tell people is, if you were to take a regular hammer and hit it on an anvil, and then you take a dead blow hammer and hit it on an anvil, you just like that dead feeling. You're like, where's the rest of this feel that I'm used to feeling after I shoot. And it's just not there. So I had a 338 enabler that I took to the Night Force CLR Match this summer. And normally the 338 enabler, it's a very high performing cartridge. I mean, realistically, it's one of the highest performing cartridges I've ever had my hands on. I could take you can shoot a 300 grain Burger hybrid so fast that the nose cone slumps in on it and it deforms the projectile. So just completely destroys the integrity of the projectile. So I was like, well,
hold up. Has this actually been documented?
Oh, 100%.
Or is this just like a...
So obviously AB, who, I was part of also up until February, they disbanded the ELR team. So I've got, I'm just on my own now. And they have Doppler radar data confirming if you shoot that projectile roughly around 3250 or faster, then the nose cone will actually slump inward and deform the projectile, and you get a massively variable BC. It doesn't happen on every shot, but it will happen. The more you shoot it over 3250, the more it happens. So I was shooting...
That's crazy.
And that projectile has like a 420-ish G7, depending on what barrel you shoot it out of. Badlands Precision makes a lathe turn solid called the Super Bulldozer 2. And it has...
what is it called?
A Super Bulldozer 2. It's an expanding hunting lathe turn solid.
Okay.
So they have a pentagon-shaped hollow point, and it asymmetrical. It opens up into 5 giant petals on impact. Well, it has an aluminum tip on it. So when it hits an unpainted steel target, it actually looks like someone's arcing a weld on the target. You can see exactly where you hit on the steel and make micro adjustments. So, it kind of has a 2 for advantage shooting that projectile.
Hold up.
Yep.
All this shit makes so much sense until I realized that you guys are shooting 2,000-3,000 yards. So how do you see, you know what I mean?
Okay.
You can't really see the...
you can easily see it. So every, this is what's so funny is every stage I was shooting, I think the average shot in the match is like 1,100, ish, 1,150-ish, something like that. Every single stage I shot, the ROs were like, oh, I saw exactly where that hit. Like every one of them, it caught them off guard. And they're like, what? Did you see your bullet spark? And I was like, yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons I like shooting this bullet. It's got a 425 G7 and I can shoot it. I kid you not, over 3,600 feet a second if I want to. But
it sparks when it hits?
It's like a tiny, I don't know, about the size of a, racquetball. You can see this little spark. It's just like a camera flash on the target. You're like, oh, I'm a 10th right of dead center. So I can change my wind algorithm in my head and subtract or add according to what I started with.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really cool. There was an elk stage. I think it was the very last stage in the match, if I'm not mistaken. And they're all kind of at 1,000 to 1,100 yards. There's 3 of them out there. And RO was telling me only a handful of people had cleaned, 1 shot each. And so in that match, if you hit your first shot, you just advance to your next target. But if you miss, you get 1 follow-up shot for half point. Or you get 2 points for a first rounder and 1 point for a second rounder. And then if you miss your second, you just and then go to your next target anyways. So first shot, hit the elk perfect in the shoulder, and that little spark goes off on the target. And the R was like, oh, that was a kill shot. And I was like, I go to my next target, send it, perfect behind the shoulder again. Oh, another kill shot. Go to the third one, send it right behind the shoulder again. He goes, man, you're the only one I can guarantee clean this stage, 1 shot each, and had perfect kill shots on all 3. So, it's just kind of cool to see that. And the stage before that was a wolf stage. I had cleaned that one also, but the way the wind was coming down off of one of the mountains, later in the day, it was kind of rainy that day. You couldn't see any mirage whatsoever. Very difficult to read conditions. I hit the wolf, but I hit where, I was trying to obviously, and that's the one thing where this match can get kind of bad for long range hunting. You obviously you want to hit the target close to the center. and you kind of subconsciously train yourself to shoot everything in the middle of the body instead of in the kill zone.
Shoot everything.
So yeah, so I
know some friends that would do really well at this match.
Well, tell them to come on with it, because there's usually 300 people up there and everyone thinks they're really good until they get thrown under the bus and have to shoot in real world conditions. It's a very big eye opener and who's a good real field shooter. They don't paint targets, so there's no advantage of that.
Where is this at?
This is up in Casper, Wyoming, and it is late June when they hold the match up there. It's around 6,000-ish feet altitude, so you have to carry your stuff everywhere. So it's physically challenging.
All right, I'm out.
You might not be. I had a caddy carry my stuff for me.
Oh, okay.
So you
brought your wife with you?
No, I took my cousin. My cousin went up there and caddied for me. So he was getting ready to go on a 60-day mountain hunt up, starting in Alaska and then went into Canada. So he's going after stone sheep and moose with his bow. So it was good for him to go up there and carry a bunch of heavy stuff and help get him in shape for altitude.
Man, you're a nice guy.
So my cousin's awesome. Shout out to Daniel. And then
no, but you're a nice guy for getting him in shape.
Yeah, I mean that's I gotta be.
All right. So this match, let's talk about this match, because now this kind of got my interest. So you shoot. It's a hunting scenario type of match, and you shoot different distances, and you have to. Is this like NRL Hunter type of thing, or is it different?
I haven't shot an NRL Hunter match. NRL Hunter is where you have to go. Let's say you stage however many yards back, and here's a stake, and you're going to be shooting between this tree out here and this hill over here, and your targets are out there. You have to range them and engage them yourself. The Night Force CLR match is they give you all the distances, all the azimuths, whether you're shooting up or downhill, all that stuff. It is already there. It is your responsibility to go out, find said targets, which they're not easy to find because they're kind of rusty and shot up, and they very much blend into the background. So some people that have maybe a bit of color blindness, one of my clients went up there. I help him train for this match. He's partially colorblind. So he had a really hard time seeing a lot of the targets. So some of them are circles and squares, but a lot of them are animals, and they're not full-sized animals. Some of them are, but they're usually like, say they're half size as normal. I've got a stage that we got on video where it was an antelope stage. I think the first, and if I recall, these are full-size antelopes, silhouettes, AR-500, really, really cool. And out there in the sage prairie, first one's like 1,100 something, and then the second one's like maybe 13-ish, and then I think the last one was close to 1,500 yards. And again, I cleaned that one shot per, done. Well, the last antelope out there, can't tell, but they've got it on the front side of a big creek ravine, and then it just immediately drops off behind it, and then the ground just looks like it's normal, but your projectile is just dropping off into an abyss. So if you miss, you have 0 feedback and you have no idea where to hit. So having a high performance cartridge comes to your advantage in a scenario like that.
So how far were these targets on average?
I think the average was around 1150 to 1170. I think the longest in the match was like 2200-ish.
Wow.
This is what's funny. I'm known for ELR. I straight up zeroed the ELR stage. I didn't have enough bipod on my gun. So they had you like laying downhill, shooting uphill. And I was like, well, first of all, in a real world situation, I'm not even going to make this shot. You know what I mean? Like it's not conducive to me to have correct fundamentals. And
wait a minute. Did anybody hit anything, or did anybody clean that stage?
Oh, I'm sure they did. I didn't though, because the way I had my rifle set up, I just didn't have a tall enough bipod.
Yeah, the way my savings account is set up, and the way my bank account,
I had to wait 3 days before my bipod legs would grow long enough.
That's what it sounds.
No, I just straight up, it was just a bad, a bad equipment choice. And Mitchell Fitzpatrick won, and I think this is his second time to win the match, and he was shooting a 300 Norma with 245 Berger hybrids. At 2850. Well,
so that's important to discuss, right? Like doesn't matter how experienced you are. If you encounter
Sure.
a situation where you don't have the right equipment, and it's not that you don't have the right equipment, is it timed?
100%.
Yeah. So you know what I mean. All of a sudden, you just run with your brung.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing. In the past, you had to start with your bolt back mag in, and you're like on the target. Well, this year you started port arms, so you couldn't lay down and
you didn't know your bipod didn't work until you laid down.
I laid down, and I'm like looking halfway up the hill. I'm like, oh, I can't even use a rear bag now. And I kid you not, I had to put the buttstock on the ground, turn my head sideways just to try to look through my scope.
Yeah.
And, and then you get the variable wind out there, and you're just left, right.
But that's legit how a hunting situation would be.
That's the whole point of the match, though, is so you can tighten up your game when, let's say you pay for a hunt and you go somewhere, and you're spending, $10,000, $15,000 on an animal. Well, yeah, it was definitely worth it for me to go spend $2,000 on match and ammo and travel to put myself under that stress when it didn't matter as much. Then I can turn around and transfer it to the real world, because I do hunt all over the world. I've been to Alaska, been to South America, been to Africa, and hunted most everything in the United States. And I'm 100% convinced that it's worth for people that are even considering to hunt anything beyond 200 yards to go shoot a match and put yourself under those stresses, because it definitely helps you tighten up your game in the real world.
Yeah, they can also do those NRL hunter matches.
Sure.
Those are very, very good for
very, very real world, because you have to range and do all your solving under the clock.
Yeah.
So I haven't shot one of those. They have a power factor in NRL hunter, and that's the kind of because I run a tub rifle with a tub reticle. There's no ballistic solver to look at. It's range. So say if the target's 500 yards, I'm holding 500 yards in the reticle, and then your effective crosswind. So his reticle's in yards and then in miles per hour in wind. So there's no ballistic solver needed. So I can range, hold, and shoot in like 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But I run 6XC, and that doesn't meet power factor. I can mitigate that. I could do, Berger makes a 135 Classic Hunter. It's got the exact same G7 as a 115 DTAC does. And I could do like a 6.5 55 Swede and run it at the same velocity. Now I meet power factor, and I have the same drop in wind drift. So I'm really just lazy. That's what it boils down to. I can do it. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah. But couldn't you do it with like a 6.5 Creed or something?
You can't get the velocity of a 6XC in a DTAC.
6.5 284?
You could, but I think a 6.5 55 Swede is, 6.5 284 you can't run on a true short action.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, we're getting off.
Yeah, we're getting off in 22's.
Yeah, what happened to 22's? This is too exciting.
They grew to 338s.
So back to 22's.
Yep.
All right. So they have competition, ELR competitions.
Yes, sir.
What is that like? Let's talk about that.
It's kind of like a scaled down centerfire ELR match. They're going to have however many targets out there, and you're going to shoot, say, 5 shots at each distance. And, it's kind of distance times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, depending on
the score.
Your score.
Okay, so just for math purposes, so if it's a 500-yard target, and it's got 5 shots, the first shot counts 2,500 points.
Correct.
So 5 times 500. The second shot is 2,000 points, 4 times 500, and the third one's 3 times 500. 2 times 500, and then the last shot is worth 500.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
So, and that's where, in my opinion, I don't think the scoring should be done like that, nor should ELR centerfire, because that can make like someone completely ran off with a match, and they didn't necessarily. We talked about this last time as to where I had 9 impacts in a match, and somebody that had 1 impact in the match beat me.
Oh,
which is ridiculous. So
right.
In my opinion, it should be distance plus 5 instead of times 5, distance plus 4 instead of times 4, plus 3, plus 2, plus 1.
I see.
Still get your amplified impact.
Yeah, but not that much.
But not to the point where, this guy that hit 1 shot now beat someone who hit almost 10 shots that keeps that from happening.
So I went to a match one time. It was a PRS match, and they had a target at 1,500 yards. And and you shot PRS, you know that every shot is 1 point.
Supposed to be.
That match it was 2, right? So it was pretty much 1,500 yards with PRS equipment. 6 BRs and 647s, and I mean the 6 BRs were subsonic.
Sure. Yeah.
So the majority of those rifles were, so a lot of it was luck, right? But those that did manage to hit it, they were getting twice the points.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that created a little bit of controversy. I didn't care because I was nowhere near the running.
At the end of the day, the way the matches are set up, here's the targets, here's what they're worth. Like, shoot your best.
Yeah, if you don't like it,
the winner's still going to win.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't like it, well, go do something else.
Exactly. Go golf.
Yeah, that's easy. I mean, in reality, how hard is it? Just hit the ball. And I've never done golfing either. So it's probably just as easy as a 500-yard target with a 22.
Yeah, or a Coke can at 709 yards or whatever.
Oh,
see, I brought my stuff. I seriously was like, let's go do it.
All right. Let's talk about that, because I didn't know about that until I actually saw it on your Instagram page, which is what, by the way?
At Maverick Stroud, and then at Pumps Precision Rifle Training.
Okay, so follow him on Instagram and all the socials.
I'll do what I do no matter what you follow.
Oh, you're terrible. You're terrible at this. Anyway, so I saw it on your. So this.
Sure.
I just said this is where I saw it.
Yeah, I know. I'm just messing with you, Eric. No one messes with you. Someone's got to.
Yeah, there you go. So this goes to Grand Thumb, right? He did a video, and I don't follow him that much. I went to go watch him after. I went to go watch that one video, right? Mm-hmm. And then I realized that Lily does stuff with him. But anyway, the point is, somebody made a comment on his video that, hey, 709 yards, I do this all the time. With open sights, me and my cousin.
Distance too.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened is they set it out there and they said, let's range it. Oh,
I got you.
It was supposed to be 700. It's actually 709. I think that's what happened, because that happens to me all the time. But some guy made a comment, and these guys decided that, okay, let's bring this guy out and see if he really can do this, right? And I don't know. I don't want to spoil the ending, whether he did or not. But the point is, after that, I had, in my comment section, people are always, oh, I can do that. My 5-year-old could do that. My 3-year-old could do that. My grandmother could do that. She has no arms. Things like that. They always making comments like that. Sure. And after that, I started saying, I'm not Grand Thumb, dude. I'm not gonna have you out here just. Yeah. So stop it. Don't even try. But the whole 709-yard shot, how hard is it? Can it be done? What does it take?
Okay, so
out of soda can.
Yeah, shout out to Garen Thumb though for actually giving a guy a platform to like back up running his cock holster. You can edit that out. I don't really care. People do talk a lot of trash online because there's no consequence, and Garen gave him the opportunity to have consequence. And again, I'm not going to say yay or nay whether he did it, but here's what it does take to do that. Because I have shot several spray paint cans at distances further than that. And it doesn't happen in a couple of shots. So of all those tens of thousands of rounds of testing, I would say 90% of those shots we chronographed. All right. Let's not even. Okay. Standard deviation and muzzle velocity. That alone says you're not going to have a very good chance of hitting, and this is with the most sophisticated equipment available. Aftermarket, high-end 22 builds, Charlie Terax in front of your scopes to give you that extra elevation. Okay. So now you're staying on full zoom. All of your elevations account. I actually ran the ballistics. If we were going to shoot today at 1,000 yards with our 22s, we'd need, with my rifle, I need about 99 mils of elevation. I've got so 240 dumb. Available. So the new Mark 8 Charlie Terac, it has 8 preset settings, and I've got mine in 30 mil increments because I've got 30 mils of elevation on my scope. And when it stops, and I need 31, I can return that to 0, click on the Mark 8 and then come up 1 mil. All right. So I have no gaps from a 50-yard zero all the way to 240 mils on full zoom. So we could shoot 1,400 yards.
So there's no scope available that you can shoot 1,000 yards with a 22 at. That's about 350 MOA for the MOA crowd.
That's right. I'm actually about to show the ballistics on my phone solver right quick because I've got it right here. All right, at 1,000 yards, just guessing like a 29.7 station pressure, about 90 degrees, 50% humidity, and then I think I had whatever wind was in my phone last when we shot the other day. We had a 6 mile an hour from full value, 91 degrees. All right, let's say we're at a 30 latitude here. What direction do you shoot on your range? What's your asking?
Towards the target. Dude, I don't.
That's right. You don't even run solvers. You're just like a video game. You just point at the target and shoot and hit
exactly.
it. So, all right, let's just say we're shooting north, 0 azimuth. All right, single shot. Okay, 98.9 mils. All right. So for MOA, that's 340.1 MOA. Okay, that's at 1,000. All right, now let's go down to our 709 yard and leave everything the same. We need 172.7 MOA or 50.2 mils. All right. So on my Charlie Tarek, I'd click it up 30 mils, dial up the difference, and then we'd shoot and miss a whole bunch until we hit it. But that's how that would go. It's going to happen. So how good is your standard deviation on your ammunition? On your muzzle velocity? Okay. Well, now let's isolate that number and introduce ballistic coefficient standard deviation. All right. What's that? All right. Not every shot you shoot has the same BC.
Right.
Projectile differences. Your barrel condition changes every shot. I have an AILR 89, which measures time of flight function out to 5 decimal points. So it gives me a ballistic coefficient every single shot. So I can actually measure my BC standard deviation. If I give it a large enough sample size, I can come up with a pretty solid BC on average. So most G7s on Lapua's projectiles are a .062 for the most part. My barrel, for whatever reason, happens to be about a .070 G7. So a little bit higher BC. So if I was to take the G7 that AB puts on their stuff, and I try to use that number with my barrel, it's not going to line up. It will for a little bit. But the further you shoot, you're going to get further divergence away from your algorithm. So by me being able to measure my BC, I can actually get a much more refined firing solution. Okay?
Right.
And I can measure time of flight function out to 10 seconds, out to 5 decimal points. So I can shoot them up close. I can shoot them out far. Well, the point I'm getting at is because I've been able to measure BC, typically we on a center fire, like burger bullets, for example, most all of their projectiles on a good condition barrel that hadn't been overused and abused, doesn't have too much fire cracking, you're going to have a sub 1% BCSD. That's what you want. You want to minimize sources of error. Well, if I have a projectile design that induces a 4% BCSD on a pristine barrel, that's just part of the equation to go wrong. So that's why am I getting such a tight velocity number, but I'm still getting more elevation that I want out at distance? That might be your projectile having variances in your BC every shot. So for 22s, pretty common to see 5% or more in your BCSD in the testing that I've done. It's very common. So if you have a higher velocity shot compounded by a projectile that happens to have a slightly higher BC, you're obviously going to hit higher. And then if you have a higher shot with a way low BC, kind of depending on the distances you're shooting, they can cancel out. It can help you, or it can really hurt you. So with 22s, the point I'm getting at is you don't necessarily need to chase your elevation as much as you think. You need to go shoot larger sample sizes. Let's go shoot a 50-shot string at 100 yards. See what my vertical really does for 100 shots. Now let's go do that same test at 200 and at 300. All right. Use your tuner.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this probably more than, well, you can't ever say I've done this more than anyone. There's no way of knowing that. I just know I've done this a lot where I've taken my barrel. I knew where the tuner setting was really good. We would shoot a number of shots at a distance. We would move the tuner to whatever spot. My groups would grow substantially in elevation. Okay. And we're not doing a magazine. We're doing 50 shots at a time here.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at the mercy of run out, rim depth, powder charge, BC, a lot of different things.
Wind.
And AJ, aerodynamic jump. That's something that a lot of people, that's one of the things I see the biggest issue with 22s is people do not give wind enough credit where credit's due. They chase their zero. I can't ever keep my 22 zeroed. Okay, well, are you running your Kestrel on your 50-yard zero just like you do a 300-yard shot? Huh? Okay, so you got an 8-mile-an-hour wind from right, causing you a vertical upshift in your impact, and you true that to dead zero, and then the wind wraps around and comes from the left. You got to shoot paper again, and now you're hitting low and right. Well, your wind is moving your bullet around a whole lot more than you think on a 22. So it is actually kind of difficult to grab a true zero, so if I'm lucky enough to get a cloudy day where there's pretty much no wind and I get a true zero in my gun, now I know, okay, now the wind's blowing right to left at 12 miles an hour. Well, I'm actually going to run my Kestrel just like I would for a longer shot. And it's going to tell me, oh, well, with this wind angle and velocity, you're actually going to be hitting high 0.1 and left 0.4. So that's actually where I need to be hitting for my zero in this wind. And that's what people don't really pay attention to, that kind of thing for the 22 stuff. They can chase their tails and never even establish a true zero. So when they try to go shoot this, my algorithm doesn't line up on my solver. No, you just don't know how to run it correctly.
So much.
So that's the thing about 22s. It's almost harder to get your 22 game just dead nuts on. So the guys that do have their 22 game absolutely squared away, they have done a lot of shooting and a lot of research, and they're deserving to win all these matches that they keep winning. And again, they're not doing anything. They don't have equipment that you can't get your hands on. They're not doing anything special. They spend enough time and familiarize themselves with their equipment to know how to mitigate all these scenarios.
Yeah, because if you're off even a quarter inch at 100 yards, and now you're shooting 1,000, that's massive on a 22.
It gets amplified quite a bit.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's the thing is I'm sure you've had. I know you just mostly do 1,000-yard stuff, but when you shoot 100-yard zero, I'm sure you've probably had a rifle that was zeroed and it was like kind of between clicks.
Yeah.
Put that in your solver. If you are not dead center, go down there and measure your true centered group. Say you've got your 6BR and I'm between clicks on my windage. Well, I'm going to actually put that in my solver. I'm 0.09 left. If there's something that you can quantify and you're not quantifying it in your solver to give yourself every possibility, to hit a target at distance. Most people are just like, that's pretty close. So is that miss. That's pretty close.
Yeah, I've had a lot of those.
Yep.
Those are the ones that hurt the most.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're going to do a lot of missing at 1,000 until we walk it in.
Sure.
Is that the name of the game? Well, no, because you have to get close enough to even see the misses.
That's right.
And then you got to walk it in.
Correct. So, when I do a lot of my ELR, we do a lot of 2-mile entertainment package stuff that we offer. And we just had Black Rifle Coffee Company come in and shoot 2 miles with us. And when the mirage gets really bad, sometimes, out in the field, you can't really tell. I'll send my drone downrange and I'll loiter right over the top of the target. And I know at 2 miles, my projectile only needs to hit about, if my elevation is correct at, I'm not shooting up or downhill, it's very flat where I'm at. I need to be hitting within 20 yards past the target to be good on my vertical on a minute and a half tall target at 2 miles. So if I'm hitting beyond that, I already know that I'm hitting high. I need to come down a tenth or two. And if I'm hitting short, obviously I come up a tenth or two, but it's like a tenth of a mil per 10 yards with my caliber at my velocity, at my air density. So I'll use my drone to help me, in these 22s. I know I can't tell if I'm hitting high or low. Excuse me. I'll send my drone down there and loiter over the top of the target. Like, oh, yeah, I think we're probably hitting a little long. So let's come down a couple of, 2 or 3 tenths. Oh, yep, now we're on the steel. So, yeah, I'll use a drone to help walk shots in more quickly. I had some clients come in and we're shooting 1,200 something yards. They're 22s. And obviously we need a lot of elevation for that. Put that on the Charlie Tarak, and within a magazine, we were hitting a 36-inch plate at 1,000 yards.
Wow.
But that's hitting a 36-inch plate. I honestly think that is probably a good bit easier than shooting a soda can at 709 yards.
Well, yeah.
So you think,
and especially open
wind.
Sights, right? That was the other thing, open sights.
Yeah, standing off-handed support side. Might as well make it hard, since that isn't hard enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it sure is not repeatable.
Yeah.
Especially with iron sights.
Yeah. Especially with a 22 that's going real slow, with a bullet that doesn't have a very high BC. It's like everything's against you.
It is. It really is.
With ammunition that you can't tune.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, yep. Especially, and I'm sure he probably wasn't shooting match grade line from Lapua either.
No, I think they were just shooting brick stuff. That brick ammo. I think
gosh.
I don't remember what they were shooting. The point is, it was like, yeah.
Yeah, with bulk 22 ammo, which again, bulk 22 ammo is meant to just plink. It's not made to go out and shoot matches per se. It's very common to see 70 foot a second ES under a box of 50. I only know that because I've tested it many times. But there's certain lines of Lapua stuff that I've had SDs in the 4s for a 50 shot string.
Wow.
Which doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen every now and then. But I would say my barrel that I personally have it's pretty common to see about a 7 to a 7.5%, or a 7 to a 7.5 SD over, say, if I just grab a random box of 50 and shot all 50 over the ailer. That's what I'll see is about a 7 to a 7.5 SD.
Okay.
So,
wow. So that's crazy. Yeah. So like anything, ammunition matters.
yes, sir.
Barrels matter.
100%.
Bullets matter. Brass barrels and bullets. I guess here is bullets, barrels, and ammunition.
Yep.
BBA.
Tuners. Gotta have, man.
All right. Got to talk about
Let's
tuners.
talk about them for a second.
You have been
probably
shooting.
why I got booted from the AB camp.
Uh-oh.
That is a joke.
All right. So tell me about tuners, because you've been using. I've never used a tuner on a 22.
A weapon for 22s, and you've never even used it yourself.
I
would argue that I might actually have used your V2 tuner on 22s as much as anybody because of all the testing we did.
I've never used them on 22s, but a lot of rimfire shooters use our tuner, and they love it. So let's talk about tuners for rimfires.
Sure. All right. So obviously there's two camps. You either think they work, or you think there's not enough evidence to support that they work. Right? In my experience, and again, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just, all I can talk about is the information that I've seen downrange, believing the target, right? The way I use your tuner is I start it either, if it has a suppressor, I'll start it against the suppressor and work back towards me. Otherwise, I'll dial it all the way in and work it out away from me without a suppressor. And I will usually do the initial tuning at 100 yards. And what I will see is it'll shoot like a blob. It'll have a generic shape. And then every now and then you'll see it'll shoot a line, like a diagonal type line. And I'm usually shooting, if you shoot enough and you know how to manipulate your rifle, right? Take your F-class gun. Can you take a PRS shooter, put them behind your rifle, and expect them to shoot remotely as good as you can at 1,000 yards?
Yeah, pretty good. Not
pretty good, but they're not going to go and shoot as good as you can,
right?
Because you have enough rounds downrange. You know when you make good shots and when you don't make good shots,
right?
Right. Same here. You shoot enough. Like I've shot a lot more than most, and I know when I make good shots, and I know when I make bad shots. It's not that often, but if I do, I call it. And I'm not going to exclude it off of a group either, because if I did it in a match, it would have counted all the same. So I'm looking for my barrel essentially to print, and it's a lot more amplified on 22s. And I don't know if that's because the dwell time is so much longer. You know, a lot of guns shoot around 3,000 feet a second on centerfire, and we're kind of at 1,100-ish feet a second on rimfire. So roughly a third the speed. I don't know if that's dwell time, more frequency, prone barrels, due to dwell time. I don't know. I can't quantify it because I can't measure it. All I know is that as I move this tuner, I will consistently see my roots change shape downrange. And a lot of times I'll see it make a diagonal line one way. I move the tuner and it'll make a diagonal line the other way. Where that tuner kind of halfway in between the two tends to. And then I will take it out to 200 yards and do my final elevation tuning out there.
So when you're doing it at 100 yards, what increments do you move the tuner in?
Depends on the length of the barrel, but typically I will move it a full quarter turn because I want to amplify how much movement I'm seeing. Because you can shoot up a brick of ammo real quick,
right?
Making baby steps. So I want to, a lot of the times I will shoot 5 to 6 shot strings to get my shape downrange. And again, you don't want to do it on a gusty day because your aerodynamic jump is subject to wind quite a bit, and obviously your left and right is. But if you can do it on a day that's fairly calm, those are the days you want to go tune on because you're minimizing environmental air. So I'll just throw a quarter rev at a time in, essentially.
So that's about 12 and a half. Let's call it 10 lines. You're saying you do about a quarter revolution. That's 12 and a half marks on the the V2.
Yes,
so
exactly. 12
on the V2. So let's call it 10. I do on
my 50 per.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go 10.
Yep.
For simplicity.
Call it 10 for simplicity.
Right.
And again, you'll exacerbate how quickly you change your shape size. And when I see it make a line one way and then a line the other, I'll kind of come back and halfway in between those. And a lot of the times you'll find a really good spot. And to showcase this, like Lauren and I, my wife, we went out just 3 or 4 days ago and we were shooting at family land. We were shooting at 300 yards and I shot exactly a 10 shot string. It was a minute tall, and then detuned the gun. I don't know if that's what you call it, but either you're in tune or you're out of tune,
right,
so to speak. But I just turned it a quarter rev, had Lauren shoot, and she had 4 not even connect on the plate, and then the other 6 were kind of the height of the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go back to where we had it. And then she shoots another 10 shot string, and it shoots like kind of a 0.4 mil, so just over a minute of angle 10. And I know she's not manipulating the gun incorrectly because I have a Phoenix bipod on the front and I have an adjustable bag rider on the or on the back, the buttstock. So we're essentially free recoiling the gun, and it's in the same pressure on the little Weebad milk toast bag.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not shouldering the weapon. It is just a true free recoil system at that point. So I know it wasn't her behind the gun. It's, we got a 2.5 ounce Bix Sandy trigger on there. So I know she's not purposely throwing those shots. She's dialing in the elevation. She has an adjustable bag rider on her CLR rifle. So she knows how to shoot. And then I get up there and I do the same thing. And we videoed. Got a Nikon P1000. We're zoomed in. You can see exactly where the bullets are hitting on the target. And just one of those deals. Like, how many times do we need to do this? You know, I know AB did a test, and from what I heard, I would say they probably need to rerun the tests and also not do it on a factory barrel. They used Francis's factory barreled rifle. Sometimes, I don't know if you've ever, again, you don't do a whole lot of the 22 stuff. We've bore scoped a lot of, I'm not even going to mention names, but factory, match barrel 22s, and holy smokes, they look bad. Like chatter marks like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, so you're saying they should rerun it with factory or with custom barrels, with a proven system, something that you see that is,
and then also,
repeatable.
I have gone up there and I've shot up at the AB test facility because I used to be part of their program, and they have a 300-yard range cut some pine forest up there. And you do get a little bit of wind variation, but you can also get some pretty pristine days up there too, where the wind isn't that big of a deal. I think they need to shoot the test a little bit further out. And again, why do we use tuners? For the most part, we're trying to tune out our vertical as much as possible. At least that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to mitigate my elevation, and then it's my job to mitigate wind on the fly. So that's why I did all my final tuning at, kind of 200 yards is on the backside of the average PRS match. You're shooting an average PRS match, 120, 130 yards is pretty common for an average distance. And, so I would go to 200. If it shoots good at 200, obviously it's going to shoot good inside of that. And then you are subject to BCSD and velocity SDs at longer distances. You just can't control that. But to an extent, you can control what your gun's doing out to a certain distance. And in my experience, take it for what it's worth or don't. I don't care. I believe that tuners do make a difference.
Now, so you tune at 100 yards.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about zeroing at 22? Where would you zero at 22?
I personally zero mine at 50 yards. That's just kind of a fair standard. Most, a lot of PRS 22 matches, you'll run a KYL at 50 yards. And your last target is about, it's a quarter inch.
Tiny.
It's essentially just a tiny bit bigger than your projectile. So you need to be able to shoot on command, target that small at that distance. So just like most people zero their rifles at 100 yards. Why do we do that? We're, for the most part, we're trying to eliminate the environmental variable, right? So even if, let's say I have a ELR gun set up that's zeroed at 1,500 yards. It's not really zeroed at 1,500 yards because your air density changed throughout the day, and your aerodynamic jump alone can make you way off of a target at 1,500 yards. You actually zero your gun at 100, and you tell your ballistic solver, I'm hitting X amount of minutes of angle or mils high at 100. That roughly zeroes me. But at 100 yards, I'm always going to be, say I'm 10 mils high at 100 yards, regardless of air density. So even if I go from Texas to Raton and shoot King of 2 Mile, and I shoot my 100-yard zero, I know I'm still hitting 10 mils tall.
Okay.
But because density altitude out there easily surpasses 10K, and down here in Texas, I'm usually at around a 2K DA, 2,000 DA versus 10,000 DA. But my 0 to 100 yards doesn't change. But it sure as heck would change where my zero is at a distance.
So this is something that I asked Joe. Is it Baker? From
John TACOM?
No, from Geoballistics.
Okay.
And I asked him, I said, hey, this app doesn't give me a way to input my DA for my zero for 100 yards. And he says, well, you don't need, it doesn't matter at 100. Like when you sight it in, it doesn't matter. It only, and I never understood that, but I don't know. He's the ballistics guy. I'm not.
So, I'm no rocket doctor either. I think, and again, I could be wrong. If you want to activate that parameter, you can. And it almost has as much to do with your velocity temp tables.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I'm shooting in my 30-inch 375 enabler, I run Retumbo with a 400 grain cutting edge laser, right? My wife has a 40-inch barrel, and we run H50 BMG. Your longer barrel, you run at a different pressure curve. H50 BMG is somewhat temperature sensitive. So depending on what temperature I zero my muzzle velocity at, somewhere else, it's trying to correlate and mitigate that through your ballistic solver. A lot of these non-sensitive powders, less sensitive powders, they're all sensitive to an extent. Like Retumbo, for example, it doesn't migrate as much in velocity shifts. So I don't activate that on my gun, but we do on hers.
Okay.
And her gun tracks phenomenal, and my gun tracks phenomenal. But if we turn that off on hers, and she's 2 feet per second per degree with H50 BMG, with this lot of powder that we've tested, we have trouble getting the solver to line up.
Yeah.
Out at bigger distances. And I could be completely off. I don't know. I honestly, and I'm almost embarrassed to say, I was with AB and I never even asked that question. So I'm just speculating, but I just know on more temperature sensitive powders, like we run the pressure and temperature and humidity on the zero. I don't.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. Like I said, I asked him that and he's like, nope, but 100 doesn't matter. Just zero it as close, as best as you can to where it's hitting point of aim, point of impact. And then it's only going to matter when you start shooting.
I would almost agree to that, for the most part, because again, I don't even run it on my personal gun and it doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to matter. At 2 miles, we've had I don't even know how many first round impacts at 2 miles.
Right.
And cold bores, true cold bores. And then wife's rifle, if we don't do that, we're going to chase her tail. But if we do run that, it seems to line up really well every time.
Yeah. Well, so I think we covered 22s pretty well, hopefully. If there's anybody that has any more questions, put them in the comments below.
Yep.
And we'll have Chase back a third time.
Yeah.
So tell us what you do. What is it that you do? Pumps Precision. What do you do?
Pumps Precision rifle training. I have a very large chunk of property up in Hearne, Texas. We've got, I do a lot of one-on-one and small group, highly advanced training. We've got a 4 mile range out there, which we have shot over 4 miles on our place. We've got a 2,500 yard, 360 degree wind range. So I've got a mobile shooting tower. I can move all over this property, and we've got over 100,000 acres to play on. And it is flat as a pancake in certain areas. So you can really, I'm about to go headfirst into Mirage. And so I've got a 13-foot deck, second story deck on my shooting tower. So we can get up above differential Mirage. And there's a boundary layer you can see out there. So if you're laying prone in the morning as the sun has not even broke the horizon, you can see the target perfectly clear at, say, 2,000 yards. And as the sun comes up, start shimmering a little bit. And then after a certain amount of time, when you get enough heat difference between your atmosphere and the ground, you can't even see the target. And then as you slowly break your position and get up off your rifle and get up on your knees before you stand up, there's the target. I can see it with my naked eye. I just couldn't see it 3 feet lower prone. And then we get on the bottom deck of the trailer that's, kind of waist high and probably 3.5, 4 foot up off the ground. See the target fine still. And then after a little bit, can't see the target anymore. So then we go up to the top deck, see it perfectly clear. But then we notice on super hot days, we have a lot of trouble getting our elevation to line up. Why is that? Well, probably something going on with light refraction and what we're actually looking at versus what we think we're looking at. And that's something that I really am. I was at the International Sniper Competition back in the spring. I was talking to schoolhouse instructors there, and that's something that we really want to tackle head on. And just because we have a facility that is really conducive to testing that, I'm going to start taking a lot of pictures through scopes at certain times, measuring humidity versus where the light source is coming from. And but testing stuff like that, we teach a lot of extreme long range shooting because we've got the ability to shoot so far out on this property. We can shoot further than most guns are capable of shooting. Like I said, we hit 7,151 yards out there a couple of years ago. And this is a lot of fun going out there and testing that kind of stuff. And then we teach a lot of hunting, long range hunting, introduction to long range, stuff like that. So people that want to just dabble in and get their feet wet, they can do that. And then also we do a 2-mile entertainment package, which I kind of talked about earlier. So everybody comes out, we get them on at 1, 1.5, and at 2 miles. And then we eat Wagyu at the end of the day. So it's kind of a...
What time do you guys eat? I just show up for
Depends
that.
on how efficient they want to be on target. But, that's a very popular one that we do. And just, they don't want to necessarily spend the money. They don't want to go all in on the ballistic side of things. They just want to go and experience it. And that's just something that we offer. Whether you want to come experience 1,000 yards or 2 miles plus, we definitely accommodate that. And then what I recently just started offering is Robert Wagner up at Alamo Precision. They're getting unbelievably busy building rifles up there. That he asked me, because he knows I've got a reputation for making good ammunition, would I do load development for their clients, because he doesn't have time to do it anymore. Absolutely. So I put together a little brochure and put it up in their shop. And man, I've been unbelievably thankful for Robert for providing that opportunity. But man, we've been spitting out some unbelievably good ammunition that either don't know how to make good ammo, they can't find whatever cartridge on the shelf, and they need good hunting ammo. And I have 4 different packages that I offer for load development, but a bare minimum, we go out and we're ensuring single-digit SDs, we're ensuring sub-half-minute precision, and then I go out and I shoot the guns at different distances, depending on what the person wants to do on a package. And then my final package, I actually shoot over my Ailer 89. I true their Kestrel at Mach 1.2 and at Mach 0.9. So I'm truing at Mach 1.2 a muzzle velocity, and then if I need to do drop scale factoring and truing a subsonic BC, getting all those bases covered, and then I'm confirming those numbers with Ailer. So, and then we've done some third-party BC testing for some projectile companies also. That's another thing that we're getting really busy doing.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Sir.
So, somebody wants to find you. Where do they find you?
You can go to www.pumpsprecisionrifletraining.com. That offers most everything that we cover on there, short of some stuff that we do for third-party testing. That's kind of a per-client basis. Shows all of our training packages, our entertainment packages, and just, services that we offer. And also, again, I'm at Maverick Stroud on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn at Chase Stroud. And then also the company's Pumps Precision Rifle Training on Instagram also. So,
all right, so I can see it here. This is your website. Who is that guy over there holding the gun? Is that you? That does not look like you, bro. That was how many years ago?
11, I don't know. Is that the one where I'm standing offhanded?
Yeah.
Yes, that was actually at the 2014 Las Vegas SHOT Show. I had just won the PRS. They had a PRS match before that year. And 14 or 16.
All right, so I'm looking at your
14.
packages here.
Yep.
So you got a 101 custom day, then you have introduction to long range, introduction to intro to to extreme long range.
Tell my wife to.
And then you have extreme long range.
Yes, sir.
Precision Rifle 2 long range hunting course.
Yep.
Advanced reloading class. Also, you also teach reloading.
Yes. So I've got quite a few different presses there at the shop, and people can even bring their own presses in.
Nice.
And I can teach them how to dial their shoulder bump correctly.
There you go. I got a diet that can help you with that.
I can't wait to get my hands on it.
So you got a wind course, ballistic solver course. I've heard from people that you really know how to use a Kestrel.
Yes.
I mean, you have one on you all the time. So I'm before you leave, we're gonna
go over
some
that.
pointers. One-on-one tuner course, very nice. EC tuner there, nice. The 22 tuner class, ELR rifle setup, and a lot more. So
yeah, we do consulting. A lot of on the phone consulting.
So you got a lot of stuff here. That's good stuff, man. Yeah,
we've invested. Depending on who you ask, I've either invested or wasted most of my life in shooting. And it's starting to pay off. Say that.
Nice.
So we've acquired enough information, and we've proven ourselves in competition enough to where people ask questions, and it was consuming my entire life with a full-time job. And I was like, now I can just do what I love full-time, and it's just been great.
Yeah.
Had a lot of support. Both Applied Ballistics, David Tubb, all the people that I kind of grew up, idolizing them, now shooting with them and trading ideas. And it's been a huge blessing in my life to be able to do this full-time now.
Very nice. I got to get David on here.
Yep. Do it soon.
Yeah. Now, the last time you were here, you talked about Ventusky, the app, and you kind of just said it in passing, and so many people have been asking about that. So tell me about that app right quick, because I have it, but I don't even know how to use it.
Okay, so I've got it right here on my phone too, and takes just a second to pull it up.
So the app is called Ventusky.
Yeah, so the app is spelled Ventusky. Ventusky. It's a weather app, and I use it that you can really help yourself with wind calling. So obviously when we hold our Kestrels up, we're only measuring air immediately where we're at.
Right.
We're not accounting for, the longer you shoot, the higher your projectile goes in its max ordnance. The wind might be blowing harder up there at a different wind gradient and a different angle.
Right.
So for the most part, the higher you go up in the northern hemisphere, your wind kind of rotates clockwise. All right. So I've got it pulled up right now where we are. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but 10 meters off the ground right now, the wind's blowing roughly 9 to 10 miles per hour. So in here, it is showing immediate wind, and I have it set where it's 10 meters above the ground. So it shows your wind angle and velocity in correlation to where you're at. So you can make predictions on, I'm about to shoot 2 miles. Well, my projectile is going to be a whole lot more than 10 meters up off the ground. So I'm going to go to the next layer up here. I'm going to go 100 meters up off the ground. All right. Oddly enough, it is slower. It went from 10 miles per hour, 9 to 10 miles per hour, 10 meters off the ground, and it's only blowing 7 miles per hour, 100 meters up off the ground. Normally it's the opposite. Normally it picks up speed. Well, that's what I always predicted in the past. Common sense says, well, there's less friction up there, so there should be more wind. Well, this just proved me wrong. Okay. That's why you can only go so long on predictions. This is letting us quantify and actually measure what the wind is doing at true max ordnance.
But isn't that a prediction as well? It's just a more educated prediction.
Yeah, I don't know how they actually quantify and measure.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they're doing where they release those balloons and they're actually in wind currents and they have.
That's my point. But if you're shooting and you look up and you don't see a balloon, that means it's just a prediction.
Yeah, you're
but it's a better prediction than what we would come up with.
That's right. I found it to be very accurate.
Okay.
So what I would do on a shot like that is I would go to where my max ordnance is, which is typically around 60% of your bullet's flight path.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be seeing your bullet at its max ord. I'm going to do my best to predict true wind speed at max ord. And that's where my average wind call is going to be. And
Very nice.
It has proven itself to be accurate enough. Because again, we've got the 2,500 yard, 360-degree range. Let's go out and test it. Proof's in the pudding, right?
Yeah.
So we went out and we actually tested it, and we shot the way I used to predict versus this. And this model tended to put bullets on target more than just a raw prediction of.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a way more educated prediction than we could come up with, right? Because they actually,
it's better than nothing.
Yeah, well, it's better than they actually. Like I said, it's still a prediction that they have, but that's what they do. And they actually have meters. I don't know how they do it.
Right, and I don't know if they're doing it off of satellite infrared or if they're doing it off of releasing balloons. Again, I don't know, but they're coming up with those numbers, and they tend to be pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And
that's all that matters, right? If you've tested it and it's been accurate, then better than nothing.
And the cool thing is you kind of scroll through hour by hour throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So you can predict, I'm not going to be shooting until 1:00 today, and the wind is going to be changing directions and laying over according to this.
Right.
So I can be mentally prepared, and I can actually statistically predict my wind call changes, both in my elevation and on my windage, because your wind angle changes, there's a good chance your aerodynamic jump will change also in your vertical component.
Yeah. So. Good stuff, man. Well, I'm going to have to, maybe, if they want, can have you back and go over that thing more, and maybe the Kestrel and all that, because I know you know, I'm going to go buy you lunch right now, and we're going to talk about Kestrels.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yes, sir. I've got mine, and then,
I got mine too.
The Garmin watches are the same. The only thing the Garmin watches don't do is they don't actually have a wind anemometer on there to actually measure wind.
Well, good stuff, man. Chase, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for being back, and we'll have you back some more whenever you want.
All
Anytime.
Right. I'll be back tomorrow.
All right, man. Bring them steaks.
Yes, sir. I will next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.